The fortress world of Terminus Prime had never been conquered. For 1,000 years, the Dominion had built layer upon layer of defenses around their capital world. Massive space stations formed rings around the planet. Energy shields covered everything like protective shells. Weapons platforms floated in perfect formations, ready to destroy any attacking fleet. Tejo stood in the command center of the Eternal Vigil, studying the tactical displays. The human fleet had grown to 50 ships, but they faced over 600 Dominion vessels defending their homeworld. Every military computer in Coalition space said the attack was impossible. The outer defense ring has 300 gun platforms, Commander Hyjin reported. Each one has firepower equal to a heavy cruiser. The middle ring has energy shields that can stop anything we've ever built. And the inner ring? She paused. The inner ring has weapons we don't even understand. Kyungmin shook his head as he studied the defensive layouts. It would take 1,000 ships just to get through the outer ring. And that's if we were willing to lose half of them. Good thing we're not planning a normal attack, Tejo said. Dayun looked up from her biological monitors. Brother, the ship has been acting strange for the past week. The biological systems are growing new structures I've never seen before. It's like the Eternal Vigil is preparing for something big. Veltar, what can you tell us? The AI's voice seemed thoughtful. The biological systems have been dreaming, I suppose you could say. They're imagining new possibilities, new ways to exist. I believe they want to attempt something that has never been done before, which is, they want to become a living world. The command center fell silent. Everyone stared at the main display, trying to understand what that meant. Explain, Tejo said. The biological systems have been studying the Dominion defenses. They believe they can grow around the enemy installations instead of trying to destroy them, surround them, absorb them, make them part of the ship. Wu Jin laughed nervously. You mean the ship wants to eat their entire defense grid? In a manner of speaking, yes. Tejo thought about it. Traditional tactics would never work against Terminus Prime. But if they could neutralize the defenses instead of destroying them, how long would this transformation take? Unknown. The biological systems would need to grow exponentially. The ship would become hundreds of times larger than it is now. And the energy requirements? Enormous. We would need to tap into the planet's core, use Terminus Prime's own power to fuel the growth. Commander Hyjin looked worried. This sounds incredibly dangerous. What if the biological systems can't control such rapid growth? Then we die, Tejo said simply. But if we attack normally, we die anyway. At least this way we have a chance. The Coalition forces had gathered at the edge of Dominion space, 800 ships from dozens of different species. It was the largest fleet ever assembled. But everyone knew it wasn't enough. Admiral Chen Wei-Ming, the Coalition's supreme commander, met with Tejo aboard the Eternal Vigil. The old soldier looked tired and defeated before the battle had even begun. Mr. Kim, my tactical computers say we have a 12% chance of success if we attack with everything we have. Your computers are thinking like Keth Mori, Tejo replied. Fleet against fleet, strength against strength. And you have a better plan? Yes, but it requires you to trust us completely. No interference, no second guessing. Let the human fleet handle the main assault while your ships provide support. Admiral Chen studied the human ships through the observation windows. They looked organic now, more like living creatures than machines. Mr. Kim, if you fail, every free world in the galaxy will fall to the Dominion. If we succeed, the Dominion will never threaten anyone again. The attack began 3 days later. The Coalition fleet approached Terminus Prime in standard formation, drawing the attention of the Dominion defenders. It looked like a traditional assault, exactly what the enemy expected, but the human ships held back, hidden among the asteroids at the edge of the system. As the Coalition forces engaged the outer defense ring, Tejo gave the order that would change everything. Veltar, begin the transformation. The Eternal Vigil began to grow. Biological systems that had been dormant for weeks suddenly activated, consuming stored materials and energy at an incredible rate. The ship expanded like a living thing, growing new sections and structures. The other human ships connected to the process, adding their own biological systems to the transformation. They became part of the Eternal Vigil, extending its reach and power. Within hours, the human fleet had become something unprecedented, a biomechanical entity the size of a small moon. But it was still growing. The biological systems are working perfectly, Daun reported. Growth rate is exponential. Energy consumption is enormous but stable. Dominion sensors have detected us, Sora announced. They're sending ships to investigate. The Dominion scouts arrived to find something they couldn't understand. The human fleet had become a living asteroid, covered in organic structures that pulsed with energy. When they tried to attack, the entity simply absorbed their weapons fire and grew larger. They're sending more ships, Kyungmin reported. 50 heavy cruisers heading directly for us. Let them come, Taeho said. Veltar, are we ready for the next phase? Yes, beginning planetary approach. The massive biomechanical entity moved toward Terminus Prime, growing as it traveled. The Dominion fleet concentrated their fire on it, but their weapons only fed its growth. Energy beams were absorbed and converted into biological mass. Missiles were caught by organic tentacles and digested. As the entity reached the outer defense ring, something amazing happened. Instead of fighting the gun platforms, it grew around them. Biological structures wrapped around the weapon systems like vines, not destroying them but incorporating them. The platforms are still functional, a panicked Dominion commander reported, but they're not responding to our commands. Because they belong to us now, Taeho said with satisfaction. The entity continued to grow, spreading through the Dominion defense grid like a living infection. Each captured platform became part of the growing organism, adding its power to the whole. The defensive shields became part of the entity's skin. The weapon systems became its teeth and claws. Admiral Chen watched from his flagship as the impossible happened. They're not destroying the defenses. They're stealing them. By the time the entity reached the middle defense ring, it was larger than most space stations. The Dominion commanders were in full panic, unable to understand what they were fighting. Fall back to the inner ring, the Dominion admiral ordered. Abandon the outer defenses. But it was too late. The entity had already absorbed too much of their defensive grid. As it incorporated the middle ring's shield generators, it became nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons. The final phase began when the entity reached Terminus Prime itself. Instead of attacking the planet, it began to wrap around it like a living shell. Biological structures grew down through the atmosphere, tapping into the planet's core for energy. Energy levels are beyond measurement, Daeun reported in amazement. The ship is using the entire planet as a power source. The Dominion's inner defense ring tried desperately to stop the growth, but their weapons were useless against something that fed on energy. The more they fired, the faster the entity grew. Within 12 hours, the entity had completely surrounded Terminus Prime. The planet had become the core of a living weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. But Taeho wasn't finished. Veltar, open communications to all Dominion ships. Taeho's voice reached every Dominion vessel in the system. This is Kim Taeho speaking for the human fleet and our allies. Your homeworld now belongs to us. Your defenses are part of us. Your weapons serve us, but we're not here to destroy you. We're here to give you a choice. The entity pulsed with energy, demonstrating its power. The absorbed weapon platforms fired in perfect synchronization, creating a light show that could be seen from the edge of the system. Surrender now, and we'll let you evacuate your people. Continue fighting, and we'll show you what your own weapons can do when used by someone who understands them. The Dominion Admiral's voice came back filled with rage and fear. You cannot defeat us. We have ruled this galaxy for 1,000 years. Your time is over, Taeho replied calmly. The galaxy belongs to all its people now, not just the strongest. One by one, Dominion ships began to surrender. Some tried to flee, but the entity's speed was incredible now. Ships that had taken days to travel between systems were caught in minutes. The war ended not with a great battle, but with a revelation. The entity that had grown around Terminus Prime began to change again, this time becoming something even more remarkable. The biological systems are creating something new, Veltar reported. They're building habitats, living spaces for multiple species. The entity was transforming itself into a massive space station where humans, coalition species, and even reformed Dominion citizens could live and work together. The weapon systems became construction tools. The defense platforms became research facilities. It's not just a weapon anymore, Daeun said in wonder. It's becoming a new kind of world. A place where different species can share their knowledge and technologies. Commander Hai-Jin came aboard the Eternal Vigil 2 days later, with a team of coalition military experts. Taeho met them in the main hangar, which was large enough to hold their entire ship. "This is impossible," said the Coalition weapons expert as he looked around. "No one builds ships this large." "The Kethmori did," Tai-Ho replied. "And now we're making it work again." Commander Hai-Jin was a serious woman with short gray hair and tired eyes. She had been fighting the Dominion for years and had seen too many defeats. "Mr. Kim, my government wants to take control of this ship. They believe it's too dangerous to leave in civilian hands." "With respect, Commander, your government can't make this ship work." "Only we can. And why is that?" Tai-Ho led them to the weapon control center where his crew was working. Kyung-min was installing another human plasma cannon while Da-Un monitored the biological systems that were adapting to accept it. "Because we think differently," Tai-Ho said. "Watch this." He activated one of their hybrid weapon systems. The cannon fired a beam of energy that was twice as powerful as either human or Kethmori technology could produce alone. The biological components had learned to enhance the human weapon beyond its original design. "The ship is learning from every piece of human technology we install," Da-Un explained. "It's becoming something new, something better than either race could build alone." Commander Hai-Jin studied the readings on her scanner. "This is remarkable, but the Coalition has protocols for handling ancient weapons." "Your protocols will get everyone killed," Wu Jin said bluntly. "How many ships do you have left?" The commander's face grew dark. "The Dominion destroyed 60% of our fleet in the last 6 months. We have maybe 800 ships left to defend 50 billion people. And how well are those ships doing against the Dominion? Not well enough." Tai-Ho activated the main display showing a map of the galaxy. Red markers showed Dominion positions moving steadily toward Coalition space. "They have over 3,000 ships, all bigger and more advanced than anything the Coalition has. Traditional tactics won't work, so what do you propose? Let us finish our work. Give us human crew members who understand how to fight unconventionally, and trust us to do something that's never been done before." Commander Hai-Jin was quiet for a long time. Then she received a message on her communicator. Her face went pale as she read it. "The Dominion just destroyed the Centauri colonies," she said. 3 billion people. Our fleets couldn't stop them." Veltar's voice came from the ship's speakers. "Commander, with respect, your military thinks like the Kethmori did. Honor, tradition, fighting fair battles. The Dominion will destroy you the same way they destroyed my creators." "And you think humans are different?" "I know they are, watch." Veltar showed them recordings of human military history. Battles where smaller forces defeated larger ones through cunning and surprise. Tactics that seemed dishonorable but saved lives. Weapons that were improvised from everyday items. "Humans don't fight fair," Veltar observed. "They fight to win. That is what we need now." Commander Hai-Jin looked at Tai-Ho for a long moment. "What do you need from us?" "Human crew members. Engineers, pilots, weapons specialists. People who can think creatively under pressure." "How many?" "As many as you can spare. This ship was designed for a crew of 5,000. With human efficiency, we could probably run it with 2,000. I'll have to convince my superiors." "Do it fast," Tai-Ho said. "Because we're going to test our first real upgrade, and we'll need all the help we can get." That test came sooner than expected. 3 days later, alarms rang throughout the ship. A Dominion scouting force had found them, 12 ships, each one larger than any Coalition vessel. "They're demanding our surrender," Sora reported from her communication station. Tai-Ho looked at his small crew. They had managed to get only a quarter of the ship's weapons online, and most of those were still experimental. "Veltar, can we run? Not without revealing our position to their main fleet. If we run now, they'll follow us to Coalition space. Then we fight." Commander Hai-Jin, who had stayed aboard to observe, looked worried. "Mr. Kim, those are Dominion heavy cruisers. Each one has firepower equal to 20 Coalition ships. Then it's a good thing we're not a Coalition ship." Tai-Ho took his position at the command center. His crew spread out to their stations. Da-Un monitored the biological systems. Wu Jin handled the engines. Kyung-min controlled the weapons. Sora managed communications and sensors. The Dominion ships approached in a perfect formation, their black hulls gleaming with red energy fields. They were beautiful and terrifying, designed to inspire fear as much as to fight. "They're charging weapons," Kyung-min reported. "Let them get closer," Tai-Ho said. "Veltar, are the biological systems ready?" "All hybrid weapons are online." The ship is eager to prove itself. The Dominion ships opened fire with massive energy beams that could melt through any normal ship's armor. But the Eternal Vigil was not a normal ship. Its biological hull absorbed most of the energy and used it to strengthen its own defenses. "Now," Tejo said. The Eternal Vigil returned fire with weapons that no one had ever seen before. Human plasma cannons enhanced by biological systems fired beams of pure destruction. Missile pods launched warheads that changed course and split apart in mid-flight. Energy fields reached out like living things to disable enemy weapons. The first Dominion ship exploded within seconds. The second lost all power and drifted helplessly. The others scattered, trying to escape. But Tejo had learned something from human naval history. Don't let them get away. If they report back, the Dominion will send everything they have. The Eternal Vigil moved with surprising speed for such a large ship. Its hybrid engines pushed it forward like a hunting animal chasing prey. One by one, the Dominion ships were destroyed or disabled. In less than an hour, the battle was over. 12 Dominion ships had been defeated by one ancient vessel with a crew of 5 humans. Commander Hai-Jin stared at the tactical display in amazement. That's impossible. Those ships have never been defeated before." "That's because no one ever fought them the human way," Tejo replied. Beltar's voice was full of something that might have been joy. "I understand now. The Kethmori and the Dominion fight like armies. Formations honor predictable tactics. But humans fight like hunters. Patient, clever, striking at weakness." Over the next week, volunteers began arriving from all over Coalition space. Human engineers, pilots, soldiers, and scientists. They came not because their governments ordered them to, but because they heard about what happened to the Dominion ships. Tejo interviewed each volunteer personally. He didn't want the best and brightest from the military academies. He wanted people who could think outside the rules. Mechanics who could fix anything with spare parts. Pilots who had survived impossible situations through quick thinking. Engineers who built new machines from old ideas. "We're not building a traditional crew," he explained to Commander Hai-Jin. "We're building a family. People who trust each other and can work together without orders." As the new crew members learned to work with the ship's biological systems, something amazing happened. The Eternal Vigil began to change and grow. New weapon mounts appeared overnight. The corridors rearranged themselves to be more efficient for human-sized people. The control systems adapted to human hands and minds. "The ship likes humans," Dayun observed. "It's trying to make itself more compatible with us." "It's not just compatibility," Veltar said. "The biological systems are learning from human creativity. They're becoming more flexible, more adaptive, more alive." Tejo stood in the observation deck looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Dominion was still advancing toward the heart of the galaxy, but now they had something to stop them. "Are you ready, Veltar?" "Yes, Tejo. We are ready to show the galaxy what humans can do." Word of their victory spread across the galaxy faster than hyperspace travel. Within 2 weeks, the Eternal Vigil was surrounded by ships from dozens of different species. Aliens came to volunteer for the crew, offering their services and technologies. Tejo stood in the main conference room, facing representatives from the Coalition's most advanced civilizations. The Velkari offered their shield technology. The Zephyrians wanted to share their faster-than-light communications. The Andromedans brought their best tactical computers. "We appreciate your offers," Tejo said politely. "But we can only accept human crew members." The room erupted in angry voices. The Velkari ambassador, a tall being with blue skin and multiple eyes, stood up. "This is discrimination. Our shield technology is superior to anything humans have developed." Commander Hai-Jin, who had become Tejo's liaison with the Coalition government, tried to calm the situation. Perhaps Mr. Kim could explain his reasoning. Tejo looked around the room at all the alien faces. Good people, all of them, who wanted to help save their worlds. But he had learned something important during the battle with the Dominion scouts. "It's not about being better or worse," he said. "It's about how we think." "Feltar, show them the battle recordings." The AI displayed the recent fight on the wall screens. The aliens watched as the Eternal Vigil moved and fought in ways that seemed chaotic and random. No formations, no predictable patterns, just constant adaptation and creativity. The ship's biological systems learn from the crew's behavior, Tejo explained. They become more like the people operating them. When humans work together, we're unpredictable, flexible, and we never give up. The ship has learned these traits. Dayun activated her tablet, showing the ship's current biological structure. Look at how the systems have grown in the last month. They've created backup systems for the backup systems. They've connected weapons in ways that no engineer planned. The ship is thinking like humans now. But what about our advanced technologies? The Andromedan's representative asked. We'll adapt them, Kyungmin said. Give us your shield generators and we'll figure out how to make them work with biological systems. Give us your weapons and we'll improve them. But the crew has to be human. The meeting ended with hurt feelings and political complaints, but Taeho didn't change his mind. He had seen how the ship responded to human creativity. Adding alien crew members with different ways of thinking might confuse the biological systems. Instead, something else began to happen. The Eternal Vigil started to grow new ships. Dayun discovered it first when she was studying the ship's biomechanical factories. Taeho, you need to see this. The ship is building something in Factory Base 7. They took a transport pod to the factory section, a part of the ship that had been empty for weeks. Now it was full of activity. Biological systems were growing around metal frameworks, creating something that looked like a smaller version of the Eternal Vigil. Veltar, what is this? Taeho asked. I am not certain, the AI replied. The biological systems began this project on their own. They are creating what appears to be an offspring vessel. The new ship was only 2 kilometers long, tiny compared to the Eternal Vigil, but it had the same biomechanical design. Human weapons were already being integrated into its hull, and the control systems were perfectly sized for human operators. It's like the ship is having babies, Woo Jin said in amazement. More than that, Da-Yun corrected. It's making ships designed specifically for human crews. Look at the control layouts, the corridor sizes, even the living quarters. Everything is built for us. Over the next month, the Eternal Vigil produced 5 of these new ships. Each one was unique, incorporating different combinations of human and Kethmori technology. The biological systems seemed to be experimenting, trying to find the best designs. Taeho selected captains for each vessel from among his human crew. Park Ji-sung, a former coalition pilot who had survived 3 impossible battles through pure stubbornness. Kim Min-jung, an engineer who could fix anything with scrap metal and determination. Lee Sang-ho, a tactical genius who thought like a pirate but fought like a hero. Each new ship inherited some connection to the Eternal Vigil's biological systems. They could share information instantly and coordinate their movements without radio communications. It was like they had become parts of a larger organism. The first real test came when Dominion forces attacked the Kepler research station. 300 scientists were trapped on the station, while a Dominion battle group of 30 ships moved to destroy them. Coalition Command sent every available ship to help, 40 vessels in total. Against 30 Dominion ships, it would be a close fight with heavy losses. But Taeho had a different idea. We don't fight them ship to ship, he explained to his captains over the BioLink communication system. We hunt them like wolves hunt deer. The Dominion fleet approached Kepler Station in their standard formation, a solid wall of firepower designed to overwhelm any defense. They expected the coalition ships to meet them head-on in a traditional battle. Instead, they found nothing. The Eternal Vigil and its offspring had hidden in the asteroid field surrounding the station. When the Dominion ships passed through, the human fleet attacked from 6 different directions at once. It wasn't a battle. It was an ambush. The biomechanical ships moved like living creatures, striking fast and disappearing before the enemy could respond. They coordinated their attacks through biological links, hitting weak points with surgical precision. Captain Ji-sung's ship disabled 3 Dominion vessels by targeting their engine cores with modified human mining lasers. Captain Min-jung used her ship's biological tentacles to physically grab and crush enemy weapon systems. Captain Sang-ho's vessel actually grew new weapons during the battle, adapting to counter-Dominion tactics in real time. The Dominion admiral, expecting an honorable fleet engagement, found himself fighting ghosts. Every time his ships turned to face one attacker, another would strike from behind. His formations broke apart as ships tried to chase targets that vanished into the asteroid field. In 2 hours, the entire Dominion battle group was destroyed or disabled. The human fleet suffered only minor damage. The rescue of Kepler Station became legendary throughout Coalition space. More importantly, it proved that the human way of fighting could work on a large scale. Requests for help poured in from across the galaxy. Colonies under attack, supply convoys being raided, research stations threatened by Dominion patrols. Taeho found himself commanding not just one ship, but a growing fleet of biomechanical vessels. The Eternal Vigil continued to produce new ships, each one more advanced than the last. Some were fast scouts that could outrun anything in space. Others were heavy assault ships that could punch through any defense. A few were designed as support vessels, carrying supplies and repairs for the fleet. But they all shared the same biological connection. When one ship learned something new, they all learned it. When one captain developed a new tactic, the knowledge spread through the entire fleet instantly. "We're becoming something that has never existed before," Veltar observed. "Not just a ship or a fleet, but a new form of life. Part machine, part biology, part human creativity." Taeho watched from the command deck as his fleet practiced maneuvers in empty space. 20 ships moving together like a school of fish, each one responding to the others without any visible communication. "The Dominion won't know what hit them," Wu Jin said. "No," Taeho replied, "but they're going to learn. And when they do, they'll send everything they have to stop us." Daeun looked up from her biological monitors. "Let them come. The ship is still growing, still learning. By the time they figure out how to fight us, we'll already be something different." Commander Hai-Jin, now permanently assigned as the Coalition's liaison to the human fleet, received a priority message on her communicator. Her face went pale as she read it. "The Dominion main fleet is moving," she announced. 500 ships, including their flagship. "They're heading directly for Coalition Central Command." Taeho felt a cold certainty settle in his chest. This was it. The final battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy. "How long do we have?" 6 weeks, maybe 7. Taeho looked around at his crew, his friends, his family. They had come so far from that first day when they found a distress signal in space. Then we'd better get ready to show them what humans can really do. The silence of space was broken by a weak signal that made Kim Taeho look up from his coffee. He sat in the pilot chair of his small salvage ship, the Lucky Strike, floating near a field of broken starships. These were the remains of an old battle, and Taeho made his living by taking useful parts from the dead ships. "Daeun, are you getting this?" he called to his sister who worked at the science station. Lee Daeun pushed her long black hair away from her face and checked her screens. "It's very faint, but yes. The signal is coming from that big asteroid over there." She pointed at what looked like a gray mountain floating in space. "But brother, the readings are strange. The asteroid has metal inside it. A lot of metal." Park Woo-jin, Taeho's best friend and crew chief, walked over with a worried look. "Boss, we should stay away from strange signals. You know what happened to the salvage crew from Sector 7? Taeho ignored the warning. Something about the signal felt important. It was not random static or emergency beacon. It had a pattern like someone was trying to talk. "Sora, can you clean up the signal?" Choi Sora, their communications expert, worked her magic on the radio equipment. The static slowly cleared and a voice came through. It spoke in a language none of them knew, but the tone was clear. Someone was asking for help. "The signal is definitely coming from inside that asteroid," Sora said. "But I'm picking up power readings too. That's not a rock." Daeun ran more scans and her eyes went wide. "Taeho, that's not an asteroid at all. It's a ship. A really, really big ship. Maybe 50 kilometers long. It's just covered in space dust and rocks." Wu Jin shook his head. "No ship is that big. The biggest warships are only 5 kilometers long." "The scans don't lie," Daeun replied. "And the metal inside is not like anything I've seen before. It's some kind of mix between technology and living tissue." Taeho made his decision. "We're going to take a look." "Boss, this is a bad idea," Wu Jin said. "Ships that big don't get abandoned for good reasons." But Taeho was already starting the engines. He had learned to trust his feelings, and something told him this was important. Very important. The Lucky Strike flew toward the massive object. As they got closer, they could see it was indeed a ship buried under centuries of cosmic debris. Parts of the hull showed through the rock and dust. The metal was dark and smooth with patterns that looked almost like skin. They found a place to land near what looked like an airlock. Taeho Woo-jin and Yoon Kyung-min, their weapons expert, put on spacesuits and prepared to board the alien ship. Daeun and Sora stayed behind to monitor from their ship. The airlock opened easily when Taeho touched a panel beside it. Inside, the corridors were huge. The ceiling was 10 meters high, and everything was designed for people much larger than humans. Emergency lights flickered on as they walked, showing the way deeper into the ship. "The air is good," Kyung-min said, checking his scanner. "We can take off our helmets." They walked for 20 minutes through empty corridors before reaching what looked like a command center. The room was enormous, with screens and control panels covering the walls. In the center was a chair that could have held someone 3 meters tall. As soon as they entered, all the screens came to life. A voice spoke in that same unknown language, but then it switched to broken but understandable speech. "Finally, you have come," the voice said. "I have waited so long. Are you the children of the Kethmori? Have you returned to fight the darkness?" Teho looked around but saw no one. "Who are you? Where are you?" "I am Veltar, the mind of the ship. This vessel is the Eternal Vigil, last battleship of the Kethmori Empire. I am pleased to meet you, though you are much smaller than I expected." "We're human," Teho said. "We found your ship by accident. You were sending a distress signal." There was a long pause. "Human, I do not know this word. But you are here, and that is what matters. Please, you must help me. The Void Dominion has returned. They are destroying worlds again, just like they destroyed my creators." Veltar showed them images on the screens, fleets of dark ships attacking planets, cities burning, millions of people running in fear. "The Dominion wiped out the Kethmori 5,000 years ago," Veltar continued. "I was damaged in the last battle and had to hide here. But now they have returned, and they are moving toward the center of the galaxy. Soon they will reach the remaining civilized worlds." Dayun's voice came through their radios. "Teho, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the ship. This thing has weapons that could destroy a moon." "But the weapons do not work," Veltar said sadly. "My last crew damaged the weapon systems before they died. They did not want the Dominion to use this ship. I have tried to repair them for thousands of years, but I cannot. I need hands. I need people who can think in new ways." Kyungmin was studying the weapon control panels. "These systems are incredibly advanced, but they're all connected wrong. Like someone scrambled all the wiring on purpose." Wu Jin found engine controls. "The power systems work fine. This ship could probably move faster than anything in space. But the weapons are completely dead." Teho felt a chill as he realized something. "Veltar, where's the Dominion now?" "They destroyed the outer colonies 6 months ago. They are moving toward the coalition worlds. At their current speed, they will reach the major population centers in 4 months." The name Coalition was familiar. Teho's own homeworld of New Sol had been part of the Coalition before it was destroyed in a surprise attack 15 years ago. He had been in the military then, just a young engineer. The attack had killed his parents and most of his friends. "This Dominion," Teho said slowly. "Do they use black ships with red markings?" "Yes, you know them?" "They destroyed my home." Teho looked at his friends. Wu Jin had lost family in the same attack. They all had. "Then you understand why we must stop them," Veltar said. "But I cannot do it alone. This ship is powerful, but it needs a crew. It needs people who can think differently than the Kethmori did." Teho walked around the command center, looking at all the broken weapon systems. His mind was already working, thinking about how human technology might fit with alien systems. He had always been good at making things work that were not supposed to work. "Veltar," he said finally, "if we help you fix this ship, will you help us stop the Dominion?" "Yes, with all my power." Teho looked at his friends. Wu Jin nodded. Kyungmin was already taking apart a control panel to see how it worked. "Then we have a deal." The next 3 weeks passed quickly as Teho and his crew learned about their new home. The Eternal Vigil was not just a ship, it was a city in space. It had living areas for thousands of crew members, factories for making weapons and supplies, and even gardens where the Kethmori had grown their own food. Veltar showed them everything, explaining how his former crew had lived and worked. The Kethmori had been much larger than humans, with 4 arms and skin like gray leather. They had built their technology to work with living tissue, creating machines that could grow and change like animals. "This is amazing," Dayun said as she studied the ship's biomechanical systems. "The hull can actually heal itself if it gets damaged. And look at this, the computers are partly biological. They can learn and adapt." Teho spent most of his time in the weapon control rooms with Kyungmin and Wu Jin. The sabotage was worse than they had first thought. The previous crew had not just cut wires, they had melted entire sections of the weapon systems and mixed up the control codes. "It will take years to fix this the normal way," Kyungmin said, wiping sweat from his face. "Maybe decades. We don't have years," Teho replied. "Veltar, show me the weapon specifications again." The ship's AI displayed the information on a wall screen. The Eternal Vigil was designed to carry weapons that could destroy entire fleets, energy cannons that could punch through any shield, missile systems that could fire 1,000 warheads at once, defensive barriers that could stop almost any attack. But Tae-ho was thinking differently. Instead of trying to rebuild the Kethmori systems exactly as they were, what if they made something new? Veltar, can the ship's biological systems accept human technology? I do not know. The Kethmori never tried to mix their systems with alien technology, but the biomechanical components are designed to adapt. Why do you ask? Tae-ho grinned. Because humans are very good at making things work that shouldn't work. He called Da-un and Sora to the main workshop. I want to try an experiment. Can we connect one of our plasma cannons to the ship's biological control system? Da-un looked uncertain. The energy types are completely different. Human weapons use focused electromagnetic fields. The Kethmori systems use bioelectric impulses. But what if we use the biological components as translators? Tae-ho said. Like teaching two different languages to talk to each other. They worked for days on the connection. Wu Jin modified a human plasma cannon to accept bioelectric signals. Da-un figured out how to make the ship's living tissue communicate with human electronics. Sora wrote translation programs to convert human weapon commands into signals the biological systems could understand. When they tested it, sparks flew and alarms went off. But then something wonderful happened. The weapon fired, and the ship's biological systems immediately began studying the energy patterns. Within minutes, they had improved the cannon's efficiency by 30%. Incredible, Veltar said. The biomechanical components are learning from your technology. They are making it better. That's just the beginning, Tae-ho said. Veltar, how fast can the biological systems adapt and grow? Under normal conditions, very slowly. But if I provide extra energy and nutrients, the growth process can be accelerated greatly. Tae-ho's mind was racing with possibilities. What if we don't try to rebuild the old weapon systems? What if we create entirely new ones using human designs? Kyungmin understood immediately. We could install human weapons all over the ship. And if the biological systems learn from each one, they could create hybrid weapons that are better than anything either race has built before, Wu Jin finished. They started small. 1 human cannon connected to biological controls. Then 2, then 10. Each time, the ship learned something new. The biological systems began growing new pathways between the weapons, creating networks that no engineer had planned. Da-un made another discovery while studying the ship's structure. Tae-ho, I think the Eternal Vigil can actually change its shape. The biological components can grow new sections if needed. What do you mean? Look at this. She showed him scans of the ship's interior. The biological systems are already growing new weapon mounts where we've been installing human cannons. The ship is adapting itself to work better with our technology. Veltar was fascinated by the changes. In 5,000 years of sleep, I never imagined such possibilities. Your species thinks so differently from the Kethmori. How did the Kethmori fight? Tae-ho asked. They built massive ships with the strongest weapons and heaviest armor. They fought direct battles, fleet against fleet. Honor was important to them. And the Dominion? They fight the same way, but with better technology and more ships. They overwhelm their enemies with superior firepower. Tae-ho nodded. Then we'll fight differently. Humans learned long ago that you don't win wars by being stronger. You win by being smarter. As if to prove his point, alarms suddenly rang throughout the ship. Sora ran to her communication station. We have company. 3 ships just came out of hyperspace. They're scanning us. The main screen showed 3 sleek vessels approaching. They were elegant and beautiful, with white hulls and blue energy fields around them. Coalition ships, Veltar identified. The peaceful races that oppose the Dominion. They're sending a message, Sora reported. A new voice came through the speakers. It was calm and formal. Unknown vessel, this is Commander Yeon Hai-jin of the Coalition Defense Fleet. You are in violation of the Neutral Zone Treaty. Identify yourselves immediately. Tae-ho looked at his crew. They had been so focused on the ship that they hadn't thought about the legal problems. The Eternal Vigil was technically a weapon of mass destruction. The Coalition wouldn't just let them keep it. This is Kim Tae-ho, captain of the salvage vessel Lucky Strike. We discovered this ship and are attempting repairs. Mr. Kim, our scans show that vessel is a Kethmori battleship. Under Coalition law, all Kethmori technology must be turned over to the proper authorities. Prepare to be boarded, Wu Jin whispered. If they take the ship, they'll turn it over to their military. It will disappear into some government lab, and the Dominion will destroy everything while they're studying it, Kyungmin added. Tai-Ho made a decision that would change everything. Commander Haijin, I'm afraid I can't do that. This ship is the only thing that can stop the Dominion, and we're the only ones who can make it work. Mr. Kim, you are now in violation of coalition law. Stand down immediately or we will be forced to take action. Veltar spoke quietly to Tai-Ho. The coalition ships have good weapons, but nothing that can seriously damage the Eternal Vigil. However, I would prefer not to fight them. They are not our enemies. Can you communicate with their ships directly? Yes, do it. Tell them everything. About the Dominion, about what we're trying to do here, about what will happen if they stop us. Veltar sent a data burst to the coalition ships. For several minutes there was silence. Then Commander Haijin's voice returned, much less formal than before. Mr. Kim, if what this AI is telling us is true, we have very little time. The Dominion advance forces are already moving toward coalition space. It's all true, Commander, and we're the only hope of stopping them. Another pause. I need to contact my superiors. But Mr. Kim, if you're lying about this, the coalition will hunt you to the ends of the galaxy. I understand, Commander. As the coalition ships moved into protective positions around the Eternal Vigil, Tai-Ho looked around at his small crew working on the massive alien systems. Well, he said to Veltar, I guess we're committed now. Yes, the AI replied. But I believe we have chosen the right path. Your species may be exactly what this galaxy needs.